Welcome everyone to the VG.Cantina.Podcast. I am your host, M. Let's talk about some video games. So initially I want to apologize. It's been about more than a week since I've posted any videos. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I am a student, so I have been doing a lot of schoolwork over the summer. Unfortunately, things just got a little bit busy, but I have a little bit of free time right now. Though I think that worked in my favor for the podcast at least, because now we have a whole bunch of news to go over. I won't be going over every little thing, and I won't be saying on some things for too long, but we do have a main topic of the show, which I will be talking about. We'll see how that goes. But for now, let's get into that news. So all these things are not going to be in order. They're just going to be from what I see. And the first thing I see here is that we have Horizon Forbidden West. It looks like it is being confirmed to be delayed to early 2022. This comes from Jason Schreier. Looks like COVID just got another victim. Well, not victim, but the delays have hit another game. This time it is PlayStation's marquee exclusive for Horizon Forbidden West. That kind of answers a lot of questions as to why we weren't seeing a lot of stuff for Horizon as the months go by for this year. It makes sense though. Well, firstly, I think I understand why they were kind of pushing a little bit harder for Deathloop. I also think they should push harder, definitely, with Kena, which was also delayed till September, which is absolutely fine with all these delays. I mean, it's almost the norm at this point. So I think that is kind of... We should have seen this coming, and it really shouldn't have been a surprise. This is just confirmation. I guess now the question becomes for next year. They also stated God of War is delayed for early next year, and this is delayed for first quarter next year. How close are they going to be, together? And then also, if it is going to be both of them for the first quarter, what game are they going to push for the latter half of the year? The holiday portion, I guess. Could be Gran Turismo, GT7. I know that one got delayed for next year. There wasn't a specific time frame I believe they gave, so I can assume if they were to delay God of War 2 and Horizon Forbidden West for early next year, it would probably be maybe Horizon first, then God of War for the first 6 months, and then GT7 on the latter half, which I can see being pretty good. But I think at the end of the day, what we're going to see next year is a whole bunch of games releasing, and it's going to be pretty great. Granted, it might be that say this now and then, it's delayed till next year again, which again is fine, but I think the only thing I'm going to take out of this is that I really wish a lot of these studios stopped giving out dates and really only gave out a date when they're like maybe a month or 2 or 3 out from actually releasing the game, because it's very obvious that these games are going to be delayed, and maybe it's for business reasons, but it's just kind of annoying at a certain point that we hear these release dates and it's for sure it's going to release and then it's not, and it's not anything against them, but I really wish they just kind of just hold back on the release date. Just show us the release date when you're going to release it, from like just a couple months. Granted, that probably still won't stop from some of these games from being delayed, but what can you do? All right. Our next little piece of information, we had the Annapurna Interactive Showcase. It showed a whole bunch of indie games. All of them looked pretty great. I think some standout ones were the Stray little gameplay demo there. And I believe Solar Ash as well. Just those two that I was really interested. The other ones were pretty cool looking, but those two were really marquee standouts. I think also the Outer Wilds expansion, that's pretty cool. I really like the Outer Wilds. I really like the concept of what it was going for and how it executed. So that was pretty great. So overall, a really nice small showcase. They really showed how an independent developer or publisher showcase should be. Because I remember There was like 3 indie publisher type deals at E3. One of them was Devolver Digital, which was okay, but I think it was overly theatrical, and I really didn't like it. Even though some of the games did look great, there was another one that was super boring that they hired a whole bunch of streamers to check out, and all of them had the same reaction of, man, this is really, really, really bad. Because they didn't show the games, they just talked with the developers. And while it's nice to see talking from the developers, we're really here for the games. So show us the games. Alright, going past that, looks like there is a PlayStation 5 update. So now we got a whole slew of things that they added to the PlayStation UI, and they have released now a couple of SSDs that you can purchase to expand your storage. I think one thing about these SSDs that seems everyone kind of saw is that you also need your own heatsink with some of these, I think. So that's going to be really awkward. We'll see how that goes. I'm not too sure how it's going to fare. But we'll see. I think one of the first ones that they showed was the Seagate Fire CUDA, like Barracuda, I guess, which has several storage prices. So you have a 500 gigabyte for $149, 1 terabyte $254, 2 terabyte $514, and 4 terabytes for a whopping $1,000. Those are some large prices. They will most certainly go down in price once more SSDs come out. That's usually how things go. I know Xbox has the proprietary SSDs. It's going to be interesting to see in the future how these prices fare. I'm still on the side of I don't think the proprietary ones are going to be too great in the long run, mostly because I'm taking this from the PlayStation Vita side where they have proprietary expanded storage that cost way too much and just did not last all too often. So it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, with everything that's going on with storage and stuff that's hard to find, the proprietary stuff is pretty good because it's literally from Xbox. But I'm certain about 4 years from now, when we're looking into storage expansion, you're going to find the cheaper option being PlayStation, just because you're going to be flooded with all these SSDs and whatnot, and it is just going to just go way down. Also because it seems like, based on certain numbers, both the Xbox and PlayStation are doing pretty well, but the PlayStation is doing a little bit better overall. So since they are trending to be the market leader, obviously the Switch is the dominating one. However, that's been out for several years, and it hasn't even been a full year for these new consoles that came out. But as things go up and things become more available, they'll be tailoring more SSDs for the PlayStation 5, and they'll making it cheaper, and they'll do all these sorts of stuff to make themselves more appealing to the wider public to buy. But what can you do for now? The only thing you do is wait. Let's see what else here. Oh yes, the Halo Infinite tech preview. There were some invites that went out for the Halo, I guess, beta or alpha or whatever. A whole bunch of streamers got their hands on these review or access codes. They've been playing it over the past day or two and just giving their thoughts. I was able to just to catch some of these streams. Looks pretty good. It definitely looks, I think it looks a lot better than what 343 has initially put out with Halo. This is definitely reminiscent to me of like the Bungie style of Halo. Obviously there's some tweaks and whatnot, and like certain things are probably going to change, but it looks pretty good. They still haven't said anything about release dates, but they've been giving a lot of updates, and it's looking pretty nice. I'm sure people are digging into a whole bunch of things with this little preview thing because they have access to it on their computer, so they're probably going to find a whole bunch of stuff about the game that might be leaked out soon. But overall, initial impressions, pretty nice. Another thing here, there is a new AAA studio in LA that is called That's No Moon. These developers, I think it's about 40, and they're coming from Naughty Dog, Santa Monica Studios, and Bungie, and maybe Infinity Ward, I think, the Call of Duty people. And they are making a new single-player action adventure, and they are being funded by Smilegate for $100 million. So, a couple things. One, their logo is pretty cool. Two, the name I really hate. I don't know why. That's No Moon. People have immediately understood that this is a reference to the Star Wars thing with the Star Destroyer or the Death Star or whatever, where they say, "Oh, that's the moon," or "That's no moon," or whatever. But I still hate the name. I mean, I've never made a company name, but I just don't like the sound of that one compared to the other company names. But it seems like everyone has kind of just put a pin on this and saying, yeah, they're making a brand new Star Wars game. It kind of fits the bill. Everything is kind of leading towards it. It's just going to be interesting to see. A brand new independent AAA studio. It's going to be interesting to see. See what they pull out. Just more game developer studios, the better. It's really cool to see. Maybe they won't stay AAA for long. Maybe they'll be AA or something. Maybe just something where just more mass appeal instead of just these gigantic things, which could turn out bad. But I'm excited to see what they're going to show. Granted, I doubt we're going to see it for the next couple years. But still excited regardless. Right. I don't know if we talked about this last time or anything, but there was also an EA conference, is technically their E3 conference, but they delayed it for like a month or so. What was shown there was a couple of sports games, and this is just me going by memory, which surprisingly they didn't spend too much time on, which is actually pretty great, because for me, one of the biggest problems with the EA showcases is that they spend way too much time on their sports games. You don't need to advertise these games. People are going to buy them. People are going to spend a ridiculous amount of money on them. They're good. But what they did spend some time on is they spent some time on a new indie game that they've been funding, which is called Someplace in Random, I think. Something like that. It looks really great. I'm actually really interested in that. The combat kind of reminds me of the Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, where it uses a cart style type combat. I'm really kind of worried about how that's going to play out because I didn't like that combat. But it was pretty interesting. It's called Lost in Random. But the art style is really interesting. It has that really like Tim Burton type of feel crossed with like American McGee's Alice type of stuff. Really excited to see how that goes. It looks good. I'm just a little worried about the combat, but based on how they're talking about it, I don't think there's going to be too much to worry. Just kind of some things to get used to. They showed also Season 2 of Knockout City. Their theme is movie themes. They got some new maps, some new gears, a new ball, new playlist. Hey, credit to EA. I think they created a brand new live service game that is pretty successful. I know they've been making a whole bunch of live services games, and they've all essentially fallen down the hill and crashed and died. But this one looks like it's living and thriving and surviving, and it's pretty fun. So good on them. I really enjoyed the little showcase for the Season 2. It was really nice. Let's see here. Also, their big thing was the Battlefield game. Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I'm not a really big, COD or Battlefield type of guy. But this game looked pretty good. What really sold me was the game modes. I think it's really cool when obviously they can show the shooting and the set pieces and whatnot. And yeah, that's good and fine, but let's be honest, we've seen that hundreds of thousands of dozens of times. So it's not really any different. But when they showed the Battlefield Portal thing and they started showing all of these like meme type games and whatnot and just these funny trailers, I was like, okay, you know what? I think I'll give this a try because this looks fun. Like it is just it's sure it's probably trying to be or beat Call of Duty, and we'll get to that later. But now it's starting to become its own thing where it's just a fun game with fun added stuff. Like I think initially they had the little scene where it was two groups of players. One of them had knives and the other ones had the electric shock pads, and that was a really funny segment. They also had the custom gameplays where they literally took the mean, would you fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses, in which you have a tank fighting against 100 small duck-sized robots. And that was pretty funny. They also had something that I was kind of surprised no one has ever done in a game, because I've always had this thought whenever I was in history. They have a game mode where they have like a whole bunch of players who are soldiers from like World War II or World War I or something, pitted against like 5 players from like the future war era. And you have like your missions that you have to do as the future players, and then the past players just have to try and stop you. And I thought that is really creative, and I'm really surprised no one's ever thought of that, because I've thought of that so many times when I was a kid, to the point where I even annoyed my history teacher and be like, and when I asked, if would someone be able to control the world if they sent someone back in time and gave them an Uzi when everybody just had rivals? Obviously, that's a stupid question, but as a gameplay, scenario, it's pretty good. At least I think so. They didn't show Skate 4 at this play live, is what they called it. But they did show, their last little bit of news is that they are remaking the Dead Space game. Really fun game, which famously got destroyed by EA themselves when they took it over and dissolved Visceral. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, they're essentially playing it, quote-unquote safe by just doing a remake, because the first game was awesome. It was probably the best out of the Dead Spaces. And they're just going to basically up-res it in HD with their new engine, and they're probably going to change just some stuff, but it looks like it's going to be relatively the same, and that's going to be pretty big, because I think, even the original Dead Space still holds up pretty well, but I think this one's going to be pretty good. I don't know if it's going to be kind of like the Blue Point style of remakes where they really go hard into it, but I think either way, whatever they do, as long as they don't horrifically change it, it's going to be pretty nice. And I think that is all, at least from what I'm seeing concerning of like major news, other than the main topic that we're going to talk about. And the main topic that we're going to talk about, that has really the only benefit from me being a week off, is the lawsuit from California against Activision Blizzard. Obviously, you would have to be hiding under a rock to not know about this. I am extremely late on this reporting. However, I, because I'm so late, I have been able to look at the entirety of the information that's been coming out for this, and there's been a lot. So initially, the lawsuit claimed of very, hostile or very unsafe work conditions for women and minorities or people of color at Activision Blizzard. It stated several allegations in which there was sexual assault, very bad working conditions or unfair working conditions for women, in which they were given large amounts of work from their male counterparts, while the male counterparts did nothing but play video games and got raises instead of actually, the women and the people of color who were doing the major portions of the work. And that was the initial case. Some of the highlights of the initial suit showed cubicle crawls in which drunk male developers or workers would crawl around the cubicles while drunk, sexually assaulting some of the women there. There were cases in which Like I said, women were passed up on raises and promotions, even though they were the ones doing the majority of the work. There were cases in which the male developers would ignore work and have the female counterparts do their work. There was a case in which a female developer or employee was sexually assaulted, so much so that she had committed suicide on a retreat. In which she was with her boss from Activision Blizzard, in which there was a sexual relationship between those two. I doubt it was consensual, seeing as how the reactions came about. And when police had investigated, they found that the male boss came with butt plugs and lubricant. It was also attested that that female employee that had killed herself had pictures passed around a company like party or something of her vagina. So there's even more additional sexual assault. I guess I should have prepared this with like a trigger warning or something initially, because a lot of this stuff is pretty aggressive and gross and whatnot. But, I'm really not going to censor myself here, because I think it's really important to say what was said, because if you just kind of blank everything out, it doesn't seem as... it's bad, but it doesn't hit as hard as if you were just to say it as is. It later then came out... also, additionally, one of the biggest things, which is kind of funny, because, you think the suicide was the biggest thing, and it is. But the other biggest thing was one of the head developers... Afrasabi, I believe was his name, had a suite in one of the Blizzard conventions that was named the Cosby Suite, in which he would bring female, I don't know if it was employees or female fans, to have sexual relations with, mostly resulting probably also in sexual assault as well, which just is almost like a really, really bad comedy when you look at the entire thing. Then once these allegations came out, you think it's not going to get worse. It gets worse. Once those allegations came out, whatnot, and people started coming forward with their own stories, Activision Blizzard sent an extremely tone-deaf response several times, first alleging that all of these cases were either false or hyperbolized. Everyone kind of saw through that and said that was bullshit. Then they sent out... Then one of the main corporate bosses or whatever, I forget what his name is, Bobby Kotick or something, sent out a letter saying, "Oh my god, I didn't know any of this happens. I'm just the head. How could I have seen this or whatnot? I feel really bad about that." Again, everybody saw bullshit through that. There was also a little... just an additional fact to that. I believe the guy, Bobby Kotick, or whoever... I guess I really should figure out his name. But the main boss guy also was listed on Jeffrey Epstein's information roller card, which, if you don't know, Jeffrey Epstein had that pedophile island thing and had a whole bunch of, rich and famous people go there with doing you-know-what type of stuff. And Bobby Kotick, or the boss of Activision Blizzard, was on his list. So... the idea of him not understanding what was going on in his company is pretty small. Yeah, I believe, Bobby Kotick, Then there was another response, I believe this time from like a female head of whatever, who said, who, after this Bobby Kotick thing, who came out and said... basically kind of echoed what the initial response of Activision Blizzard was about, these allegations are either hyperbolized or they were done way too long ago or whatever, and how she, as a female or whatever, never really experienced this, and she wouldn't be working there or whatnot, and everyone saw that as bullshit as well. Because again, a lot of these higher ups, they don't speak for the people, they speak for the company, because they want it. They're rich, they're greedy, that's how they operate. So everyone kind of saw through that. And then, more outrage and more, hate towards Activision Blizzard came out. And then finally, they kind of send out another response that contradicted everything that they said and say, "Hey, we're really sorry, we're really working on it." Again, people kind of still kind of pissed off at this, rightly so, because very obviously it's like, oh, like, those are just words, where are your actions? All these people initially that were trying to play this down or whatnot, and now after like the fourth, this being the fourth response, now you kind of play the sympathy card or whatever. And there's all of that terrible stuff, just more allegations coming out. Then the workers for Blizzard or Activision or whatever hosted a walkout, I believe a day or two ago, in which over 1,000 employees decided to stand at the entrance of the company to have their voices heard. And if you are unaware of I believe this was mostly on Blizzard side, also probably Activision, but if you don't know the situation with World of Warcraft, which I believe we talked about previously in Final Fantasy, a lot of this stuff that's been happening kind of explains why World of Warcraft has been going to crap. And if you have an idea of how game development works, losing an entire day with your workers, especially in the situation that they're in, is almost a death sentence for them. And another point, the point in which they walked out and the point in which these allegations came out, I think it was maybe like a week or maybe a week and a half of this happening. And between the allegations coming out and the workers walking out, there was absolutely no change in their stock price or whatever for Activision Blizz. But once the workers had walked out and basically no work was getting done, their price kind of fell off a cliff, at least for the most part. Fell off really hard, noticeably hard, to which people had then stated, if you want to boycott them, that is 100% fine, but the understanding should be that your boycotts, and in large part boycotting in general, doesn't really do much to a company, because all of this stuff, and it kind of sucks to say, but it's kind of true, a lot of this terrible gaming stuff and whatnot is only kind of secluded into the hardcore gaming audience that actively look into these type of situations. Not specifically the bad stuff, but that are more in tune with gaming news, because you have the regular customer, like the regular, I guess, Call of Duty player that just kind of turns it on and plays it. They don't really look at the news. They don't really look deep into what the company's doing. They kind of just turn on their Xbox or PlayStation or whatever, pop in the Call of Duty and just play. And Activision Blizzard's not gonna put up a sign in their Call of Duty whatever front page and saying, hey, we did all this stuff. No, obviously not. So a lot of the normal or casual player base doesn't really know this is going on. So the idea of a boycott really is not going to work, because for a boycott to work, you need almost 90% of the player base to just not play these games, and that's not going to happen. And it sucks that that's the truth of the matter. But what you can take from this situation that happened is that once the boycott of the workers, the devs, happened, their stock dropped. So boycotting buying the game doesn't work, but the workers who boycott actually show some sort of change in the company's money revenue. And it was at that point that Activision Blizzard then went a little harder in their apologies and in their talking about trying to do better. So I think what you should take from this is that if you like these games or you like these IPs or whatnot, don't support the company, support the workers. So if the workers all want to quit and whatnot, then you should do that, because in the long run that will help your IP that you like. Or you have to be okay with the IP that you like World of Warcraft or Call of Duty, just dying, because it's either gonna not change and it's gonna live on, or the company, knowing that these IPs are essentially their lifeblood money, if they see that these IPs are going to die, they're going to be forced to change. So you have to be okay with them dying to see change. Now, I'm not going to say you got to hope that World of Warcraft and Call of Duty doesn't exist anymore. I'm not saying that. You just have to be okay with them not existing. Because if you're okay with that, then you're okay with these devs not doing the work, which means you're okay with the devs sacrificing this game And then the sacrificing of this game will affect the bottom dollar of the company, and the company will then be forced to do something about it, because that's how that operates. That's how a boycott for the video game thing is going to work. It's a pretty rough, not talking point, but like explanation of how I think it works. It's probably wrong. There's probably a lot of things that are going into it that I'm not explaining, but that's what I've seen. That's what I've seen cause a change, because I've seen a whole bunch of groups of people saying, "Oh, let's boycott a certain game or whatnot," and it never works. In fact, it might even be the opposite of working, because that might cause media to cover it, and any coverage of media is good media because it's essentially free advertising. But if you affect the workers who make the game, and the game doesn't come out, or it's complete garbage, and it doesn't work or whatnot, then that means no one's going to buy it because it sucks. Doesn't matter what moral, ground they stand on, they're not going to play a terrible game, because why are you going to waste your time on a terrible game when you can play other fun games? And that's going to affect the company's bottom dollar. And then, that all happened. And then obviously, with some people noticed this, obviously, and one major talking point came up, which has always been a talking point in the gaming infosphere or whatever, is unionization. And if you know anything about game companies or whatnot, all these game companies do not have a union. So, a lot of the times when these bad stuff happens, a lot of things don't happen because workers don't have leverage. So with this, being a case in which a lot of really crap things came out of this company, and initially a lot of non-change and non-action was happening until the workers came together to do something, and then there was visible kind of fluctuations. I'm not going to say full-on changes, but there was something moving. That's where the whole idea of y'all should unionize, because that's going to really cause some stuff to change. Then came out this whole thing in which Activision Blizzard hired, I think it was either a George Bush or a Trump presidential era lawyer or something that specialized in union busting. Or, I think it was Amazon. They hired the Amazon lawyer group that was specialized in union busting. Because when you see a large group of employees come together to do one thing, unionization is always going to come up if they're not already unionized. So people saw that and really saw through the shit that Activision Blizzard was saying, because obviously they don't care. They do not care. If they took the time to spend the money and hire this law firm to stop them from unionizing or stop them from even gathering, then they don't really care. And then that's kind of where the whole thing stopped. There was some additional information where pictures came out of the Cosby Suite, in which you saw some more people that moved on into other things. Like there was some Riot game devs who were working on, funny enough, on the MMO that Riot's working on, that were part of the Cosby Suite. Granted, there was some talks or statements released from those people that said, oh, they weren't really a part of it. They were just forced into the group chat or whatnot. So it kind of remains to see what, comes, or what accusations comes against them. So it's really hard to tell, but it is pretty damning to see them and to see some of the messages released about the Cosby Suite. Also, the fact that they have a giant portrait of Cosby in the suite. I mean, it's just kind of just awful. Just absolutely awful. And then just some more allegations against Activision Blizzard. And then all of this just comes to me saying, yeah, I think I'm kind of done with Activision Blizzard. I mean, I've never played a bunch of their games. I've never played Call of Duty. I've played a couple. I played, a little bit of Crash Bandicoot, but that's only because in my mind, that's still a PlayStation franchise. I played a little bit of Tony Hawk Pro Skater. That was pretty good. Granted, the dev team, Vicarious Visions, got dissolved into Activision Blizzard to work on Diablo. I'd never really played anything from Blizzard other than Overwatch, and even then, I was kind of on it. But I think this has at least solidified in me that, yeah, I'm just never going to play anything from them, ever. Unless they completely redo the entire company and burn it to the ground, salt the earth, and then rebuild, which I doubt that's going to happen. Funny enough, I say all this stuff, I just said that boycotting doesn't necessarily do anything. But to me, this is more of like, yeah, I don't feel any remorse in just not playing whatever games come out. This isn't really me boycotting. This is just me just feeling good about my decisions. I guess it's a selfish reason, but I'm really for the game developers at these companies. I honestly hope that a lot of them just go away. Not in the, I mean, like go find different jobs, I guess I should say. Which is kind of hard to say because obviously I don't know the job availability in the gaming industry, and obviously it kind of sucks to say, but like, when you deal with this and these people move away, some companies that might also have similar practices, like Ubisoft, they don't maybe want to hire these people because they don't want to see these people come out again as well and talk badly about the company, which sucks. But hopefully they leave. I honestly do, because I think that's another way that you can pressure Activision Blizzard, because from what I can tell, World of Warcraft has its own engine for game development, so it's not like Unreal 4 or anything. I think it's like a specialized game engine for that MMO. So if a majority of them quit, that might actually be the death of that game. Like, not even joking, that might be the death of that game, because you can't just mass hire people to work on World of Warcraft. It would take at least a year or two for them to actually even start up and have even a competent understanding of how that game works, is what I think. Because, it's not like they can, work with Unreal Engine or whatever, and like there's a whole bunch of guides and there's a whole bunch of like information and people have worked with Unreal for the longest time. No, this is a completely specific engine, specific to that company, that no other company has. It's not available to the public, so you wouldn't know how to work it. And if you lose a whole bunch of that, yes, you lose that talent from people quitting, but you also lose like the senior level of understanding, of knowledge. You like that whole knowledge and understanding of the engine, you'll just completely lose, just mass loss, and that could just completely cripple the development of that game, up until the point where it's just meaningless and people are not going to play it, or are not going to it's not going to be well developed. It's just going to essentially be stuck into the state of where it is currently, and where it is currently is, from what I hear, completely awful, terrible. So if it's going to be stuck there, then yeah, it's just going to slowly whittle and die, because this is a subscription-based game. And if you're not updating the subscription-based game, the live service game, and it's stuck in a terrible state, the worst state it's been since ever, then yeah, people are going to start leaving in droves. And like I said previously, with Endwalker coming up, and the new and other MMOs that are coming up, those people, it's not like they're not going to have a choice in what they're going to go with. They're going to go to these other places because now they can. Because now these other MMOs are pretty competent, at least compared to where WoW currently is. And so that's kind of the entirety of what I have to say about that. Just awful. I always knew Activision was kind of shitty. And I always had this really weird feeling about Blizzard, mostly because it seemed kind of cult-like initially. I mean, obviously, in its early days, in its heydays, I think Blizzard was pretty awesome. Just because I think no doubt they were the ones that made the best games with the best polish, with the best gameplay style or whatever. But as time goes on, it just seemed to be getting worse, and it just didn't seem all too great. And then the whole Activision thing, and it's just been terrible, just in its entirety. So I guess I just checked initially what our previous podcast was, and it was the Ubisoft hate train or whatever. So I guess this is the hate train number 2. ActiBlizz Bugaloo, I guess is what I will call this. Kind of sucks that we ended on this kind of terrible note after almost a week or more than a week off. But unfortunately, I had light stuff, and I mean, this was the biggest news out of the entirety of the gaming news information. So what can you do? I guess just one quick note, I'll just have to say, just another thing that I've been doing is I've been playing a ton of Pokemon Unite, which, if you don't know, is the Pokemon MOBA developed by Timmy Studios and Tencent. Just a couple of things. One, that game is pay to win out the ass. It is so much pay to win, it's actually disgusting. But two, it's a pretty good game, which kind of sucks because I have fun playing it, but it's just so pay to win. Oh my god. Everything you can just buy. You can buy the characters, which is not really new, but to get the free characters, it takes so long to get to where it's they want you to buy these characters. You can buy buffs, which are essentially runes or whatever from the old style League of Legends, if you remember that, where they give you certain buffs to your attacks, your abilities, your movement speed, XP, your defenses, whatnot. You can get those for free, obviously, and you will eventually get those for free, but you can buy those too. And then guess what? You can level those up so that maybe one of the items give you 1%, but at max level it gives you 5%. And to get those, you have to use specific tokens, which you can get for free doing missions, but it takes so I think someone did the math to get a certain amount of stuff. It takes almost over a year and a half to 2 years just playing straight, doing everything, grinding hardcore. That's to get the stuff. Or you can just buy it and pay to win, which sucks because I'm still playing this game because I really like it, but I am feverishly, doing the free to play style of it. Just playing it free to play, just trying my best for two reasons. One, I think it's really funny when I am a free to play player and it's very obvious in, my stats, because, when you play these MOBAs, after a while you can kind of visualize certain percentages on how much damage someone can do or how much health someone has, and when you see those differences, you can tell which players has the items and which ones don't. Because this game is purely just monkey fighting, team fight, just fight, all about levels. There's no items or anything. There's no specific builds or whatever. It's just your Pokemon, the abilities that you have, and the level up. And that's it. So you're just constantly fighting, trying to get points or whatnot. So after hundreds of fights, you understand how much a Pokemon damage does, how much a Pokemon damage can take, all that kind of stuff, how fast a Pokemon is. So you can tell. And it really sucks when you really go against a pay to win player and it just feels awful. But what feels great is when you see a pay to win player and they're really terrible and you're really good, which, I mean, I don't mean to toot my horn, but I got some knowledge in MOBAs. When I completely beat and just absolutely humiliate them, it feels good because I know they just wasted $30 when I played for free. But that's what I've been doing. Essentially just playing the Pokemon Unite game. Also, I should be uploading some more gameplay videos soon enough. But until then, I will see you next time.